This is Kenneth Wajda. He's a filmmaker, journalist, photographer, documentarian, very successful. He's a professional filmmaker and photographer. He's here to teach us just some of the nuts and bolts of what do you do on a film set? What are the gotchas? What ABC, more the practical elements of capturing a scene and building up the components of your film. All right, so let me just throw it over to our guest speaker, Ken Wajda.
Can we get all those scripts?
Yeah, Kathy, get the scripts.
Oh, they're in my car.
Okay.
How about I'll go get them?
Okay.
Coffee brewed, please.
There's a website called wordplayer.org. Go there if you want to be a writer, especially if you want to write for Hollywood. Wordplayer.org was written by Terry Rossio and his partner, I can't think of his name. They wrote them back in the 90s when they really hadn't had that much success. They had written Zorro, they had written Aladdin, and they were starting to write Shrek. They ended up getting a lot of success. But they wrote these columns just saying, we are writers who don't know anything. We are writers who we're kind of figuring this out as we go, and this is everything we've learned. And you can learn from their columns. So they have columns about what kind of stories are worth writing and which ones aren't, because nobody will be interested. If you can, just read their columns. There's a bunch of parts to that website, but if you go to just the columns are really informative little short capsules that'll direct your writing and really make it so that you're writing with a lot more strength and stuff that's Hollywood. They were literally like unknowns, and they were saying, we don't know how to do anything, and this is a way that they figure out how to do some things, and they wrote it down. It's on the top of your sheet that's going to come out, so you don't need to really write that down. So, how many folks in here are filmmakers and actually make films or want to make films? Everybody? Of them, how many are shooters? Do you shoot your own films? Do you get somebody else to shoot them? You shoot your own film? Ultimately, if you embrace the technology that's out now, you can do things that a lot of people couldn't do in the past. And you can shoot your own film, or you can work with somebody else and shoot, even have them shoot. But ultimately, the technology has gotten much simpler that you can do more with very, very little. People are shooting movies with their phone. There's some limitations, certainly, but it doesn't mean you can't do more, and you can do it all. You don't have to really wait for, well, once I get $50,000 and once I get enough money to hire the crew. You can do more with less of a crew right now. I'm a big proponent, Don knows, of the more people you have and the bigger you make the project, the bigger and slower the production moves. When you have fewer people, the more you can just kind of move through and get things done. So you need a shooter. It may be you. You need a person who's going to kind of watch your script. You need a producer who's going to make sure we can get into the classroom in the morning and not have to wait at a locked door outside. You need a handful of people. You need some grips to carry the cables and move the tripods and help, rig some lights. I'm going to talk about these kind of lights. These kind of lights have no heat. They're not even made for film. They're made for people who have sunlight affected disorder. So if you live in Alaska and you have no sunlight for half the year, you get like all freaked out. These lights are what you sit in front of to try to help your mood better. They're also great because they're daylight balanced, and they're great for photography and for film. You can drop them on counters without needing to bring a light stand. So you don't have the apparatus that you would have typically if you had light stands with, big tripods and all that. I'm a big fan of these. You can go into a restaurant and sit it on the counter and put it out of frame, and you can shoot your scene. Those you can pick up for $75 used, versus a light that is of this quality made for film will cost you $1,000. So they're called satellites. Look them up on eBay. They're cheap. Find them locally. They're easy to find, and you can outfit a production with them.
What about just lighting with natural light or what's available? What are some of the things to look out for?
Okay, so rule of thumb, good lighting is first and foremost, do not shoot in this room. This room has no windows. This room would be the last room I would choose to even do this. Because if I had windows in this room, the whole room would have a little bit of a ambient light, and then I would supplement it. If I were making a movie, there's no way I'm using this room. If you do, you're ending up making it so now you have to, if I light this guy, Kathy's all dark, and I've got to get more light back there. I've got to put light everywhere in this room. If I just want to shoot this scene, those folks are dark. I'm going to have to add more light. So the first thing you do is make it as easy as possible. You walk into the restaurant and you want to shoot there, and there's a table by the front window, and there's a table back by the pool table in the darkness. Shoot at the front table. It makes it a lot easier. Good casting is also good directing. If you spend more time casting the right people, like I've done today, you will get more work that's like usable and quicker because you've casted well. I know like Woody Allen and Steven Spielberg, a lot of those filmmakers have said, we don't give a lot of notes to actors that know what they're doing. That's why we hire them, because they know what they're doing. I think it was Ed Burns on the set of Saving Private Ryan who he said, Spielberg didn't say a word to me. I was in the film for like 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks he gave me all these notes. And I said, well, why today? What was different about today than every other day? He said, today I had some things that I didn't like the way you did it. Up until now, everything's been fine. It's again, if you can find actors that you like what they're doing, you can communicate what their character is and they understand it, you can move forward a lot quicker than if you cast it poorly and you're trying to pull a performance out of them and you can't. So I'm big on simple. I'm big on cast well, find good locations that are easy to light, not this room. Use simple lighting. The more, again, apparatus you bring to the film, the slower it'll run. You could make a film in a lot shorter time. There's people who are shooting on the red camera. Don knows, Don shot one called Delivery, which you guys saw a scene from last time. And that was shot on the red camera. That camera is big and slow. And it needs 2 people to operate, and you will bog your set down to more days shooting. How many days did it take, and how many did you plan?
We planned 2.5, it took almost 3, and had it been the camera we were used to before that, we'd have been in 1.5 days probably. So
again, there's choices. That red camera is a beautiful image, but there's an expense to it. You have to pay the price in time. There's an equation that they say that, in low-budget filmmaking, you have a triangle. You have time, money, and quality. You get to pick 2 of those. You can have quality, and if you don't have money, how's that work?
Well, if you pick quality and time, then it's going to take a lot of money.
Right.
If you have money and want quality, it's going to take a lot of time. Yeah, so pick any 2.
But you get poor quality without time or money.
Yep.
And ultimately, if you put more time to it with no money, you can still get quality, but you have to put the time into it. You have to be clever, you have to use time well. So I thought, instead of me standing up here and talking in front of a bunch of slides, that didn't seem like that would be as interesting as if we talked about, what if we wanted to make a film here today? So I wrote a little script. It's just a scene, it's a story that takes place in one room, this room. And all storytelling, when you're writing your stories, all storytelling is, this is how people watch movies, or any book or anything that they watch, is any story. They sit there going, okay, what's this? What's going on? I can't figure out what's going on. I'm going to go get something to eat. Or they say, hey, what's going on? Oh, okay. That guy's driving a truck. Okay, I get it. No, what's going to happen next? And if they stop asking what happens next because nothing's happening, they also leave and go get a sandwich. So your job as a writer, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller is answer their question, what's happening, so they aren't confused by, I don't know, I've been watching for 20 minutes and nothing's happening here. And keep them engaged in what's going to happen next by leading them to something else. So that's what your job is. So the scripts that are coming out now are doing that. It's one scene, and the goal of the scene is to create some, what are we going to engage an audience with? Will they watch this scene or will they leave before the end of it? If you give them what's expected, they will be bored. If we did a scene where you guys are sitting in a room and I'm just talking and you're just listening, how long are you going to watch that scene? Something else has to happen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that script up on the screen, and you guys have it as well. And what I'd like you to do is, who wants to be the instructor? I could use an instructor. Who else likes to act in here? Come on up here. And you can just kind of like hang out up here and you can be the instructor. You have your script. And then Kathy, will you read stage directions? We wouldn't do this in a real film, but in a first reading, we need somebody just to kind of read through and give what's happening here. In a script, the less that's on the page, the better. People don't like to see long paragraphs of description because it's daunting. It's like, what is all this? I don't know any of this stuff. So the less you have, the better. The more dialogue, that's easy to read. You just kind of hear a voice and you put it out there. You'll notice that on the script, I can shut this off. A lot of things are written in these small little lines. Those lines are single shots, and we'll talk about why I'm writing it like that. So we'll start with the top. Interior, Niwot High School. Kathy will read our stage direction.
15 students in the classroom watch an instructor teach a class on filmmaking. 3 students, Matt, Jake, and Cindy, exchange glances. Jake sticks his tongue out, tips his head back, rolls his eyes back in his head.
So to summarize, the workings of the story are such that you have to keep your audience's attention. You can't risk boring them.
They're bored. They try to keep from falling asleep. Matt texts Cindy.
Let me say it again. It's like a magician. You can watch him for 15 minutes and it's fun. But after an hour, you start to see the rabbit tucked in the suitcase. You have to create short scenes that keep your audience's attention.
Jake's eyes are closed.
You can't go on too long or you'll bore your audience. One other way of saying it, and I know I'm being repetitive, but is that important?
Insert close-up Matt's phone. I bet Jake falls out of his chair before this guy pulls the rabbit out of his hat. Insert close-up Cindy's phone. I think any movie he'd make would be boring.
You laugh.
Cindy laughs.
Something funny, Cindy?
Oh, I don't know. You, thinking we're here taking notes and learning anything.
Oh, I didn't realize you knew everything already. Filmmaking is very collaborative art, with many roles to fill, yet it appears you already know all of this. Why don't you come up to the front of the room and explain to everyone the importance of mise en scene?
All eyes are on her. She walks to the front of the class. Matt smirks. She gets up, slowly. The instructor smirks at her too.
Good luck!
Well, actually it's not mise en scene, it's pronounced mise en scene, and it's encompassed the most recognizable attributes of a film. The setting and the actors. It includes costumes and makeup, props, and all the other natural and artificial details that characterize spaces filmed where the story unfolds on screen.
The instructor's mouth drops to the floor.
The term is borrowed from a French theatrical expression meaning roughly put into the scene. In other words, mise en scène describes the stuff in the frame and the way it is shown and arranged.
The instructor can't believe what he's hearing.
Like this.
And it cuts to this.
She hits a button on her phone and sends a photo up to the projector. A still from Woody Allen's Manhattan lights up the screen.
It is early in the morning. The light of the rising sun suffuses the bridge with a romantic grandeur. The tiny couple sits chatting on a bench along the riverbank. The lyrical beauty of the shot strikes the viewer.
Cindy smirks at the instructor.
Beyond beyond its aesthetic value than the famous Consuelo Bridge shot in Manhattan, directed by Woody Allen, encompasses several central themes of the film. The romance of the city, its dominating presence, the inconsequence of its inhabitants and their problems, their anonymity, and the isolation of the two people in life.
Okay, that's enough. Suffuses. Please sit down.
Cindy smirks as she gets back to her seat.
Anyone else want to give it a try?
There's a bit of a murmur, but no response. The instructor resumes control of the lecture. Matt mouths, "Nice." Jake starts to tilt out of his chair.
Now, we're going to discuss the early techniques of editing that were defined by D.W. Griffith here in the U.S. and the famous Russian filmmaker Sergei Einstein. It's fun to say Einstein.
Jake snores, then falls out of his chair. Cindy laughs.
We cast him well.
You must be talking about montage. I can
Matt
take it
gets
from
up, struts to the front of the classroom, shoos the instructor aside.
Montage is an idea that arises from the collision of independent shots, wherein each sequential element is perceived not next to the other, but on top of the other. I can best show you by example. It'd be better if we had a room full of snakes, or something to punch up this action some. Cue the snakes!
The instructor looks worried. He looks outside the window and sees a van marked Hollywood Snake Wrangler. He runs out of the room. Fade out.
All right. So there's a little scene that's just sort of, we have to have